We are live. It is a huge weekend. Bellator 200, UFC Liverpool. Thursday night, MMA live fights with friends. If you notice the background, I thought I wanted to do something a little different. Give you guys a little exposure to some classic fights from some of my DVD collection. So I'm going to be playing some of my favorite classic fights in the background while I do the commentary from now on from Thursday night MMA Live. And I thought, what better fight to start out with than Mickey Ward versus Arturo Gatti 1. That's right, there is none. There is absolutely none. Now, yeah, one of the greatest fighters ever, of course, Arturo Gatti. Supposedly had been a suicide, but then later it was ruled, pretty much here in the United States, we all know that it was murder. His wife got off with it, but everybody in the United States proclaims it as murder, as well as the major mainstream media. So I'm not stating anything that's anything new right there. Just give everybody a little chance to get in. What a huge stream! Like I said, though, starting at 6 p.m. For Bellator 200. That's going to be an incredible card, guys. This card it's pretty insane. It's probably Bellator's best card that they've had. On paper, it's their best card, period. I know they've had some great fights. You know, the Michael Chandler, Eddie Alvarez fights. Lots of other ones. Too many to name on there. And David Rickles, who's on here, has been involved in some of those classic fights. But you guys know the lineup here. It's, man, the main card. Michael Shipman versus Carl Noon, the middleweight feature fight, has actually been moved up to the main card. Anastasia Yankova versus Kate Jackson. That's a great fight on paper. Aaron Chalmers versus Ash Griffith. So if you're not from the UK, you may not know who Aaron Chalmers is. He has all three of his first fights by first win finish, either by knockout or submission. And he is on what I believe it's called Geordie Shore, and it's London's version of Jersey Shore. He was on it for about 4 seasons. He's a UK reality star. He's Bellator's answer, basically, to CM Punk. But he's actually had some fights. He had a few amateur fights. He's 3-0 now as a professional. He has not faced the best of competition at all. One of the guys that he fought actually had 85 losses as a boxer. I'm not sure how you get 85 losses as a boxer, but this guy has. So Ash Griffiths, who's 4-5, the guy he's fighting will be his most experienced fight, and it's a catchweight feature fight. Ash Griffith is interesting in his own, is that every single one of his fights has finished in one way or the other. Either he's been knocked out or submitted, or he's knocked the other guy out or submitted. I believe only one of those fights got out of the second round. So the good thing about this fight is we're likely to see a finish, and I will have a preview up for this Bellator 200 that's more in depth tonight on some of these fights. Phil Davis versus Linton Vassell. That's a great light heavyweight feature fight. Could end up being for the number one. It's probably number one contender fight for the light heavyweight championship. Could be for the Bellator light heavyweight interim championship. Scott Coker said as much, being that Ryan Bader is in the heavyweight tournament, and he could end up being the heavyweight champion. And then Michael Page versus David Rickles. We've been waiting for MVP to fight. He's one of the most entertaining guys out there. He had his toughest fight in his last fight, and David Rickles is a tough son of a bitch. He's been in a ton of wars. He's got entertaining. He's as entertaining walking to the, down to the cage as he is inside of the cage. And then Gegard Mousasi versus Rafael Carvalho. I think a lot of people were overlooking Rafael Carvalho. I don't know that he wins this one, but this guy is on a rampage. He's 15-1. He has not lost since his first MMA bout, which was a loss. And this guy has got all the skills. I mean, he's a judo black belt. This guy is the real deal. And after this bout, it's said that he will probably sign with the UFC, win or lose. Even if he loses to Gegard Mousasi, the UFC's probably still going to want him, depending on how that match goes down. But the main event. Let's get to the main event for people that are on, anybody who doesn't know yet, and let's see who's in here yet on the top chat. Not a whole lot yet on the chat, but the main event's canceled. Roy Nelson versus Mirko Cro Cop is off. That fight, of course, was supposed to be the alternate, the bout for the alternate for the heavyweight Grand Prix in case anybody's injured. Mirko Cro Cop himself was injured, so there is no alternate bout. Roy Nelson will automatically be deferred as the alternate, even though he already lost in the first round to Matt Mitrione. I don't really have an issue with this, being that I thought on paper he was the number 2 seed, and they had him fight the number 1 seed out of the gate. I thought that was kind of an issue. I just thought it was a poor choice by Scott Coker. I don't think, that Bellator did anything wrong, really, to anybody, except for maybe, giving Roy Nelson the chance to earn a little more money. When you've done well enough in your career that you're and you enter one of these tournaments and you're one of the best fighters in, then you're a natural heavyweight, I feel like you have a certain reasonable expectation to be, given a decent seed. And this tournament wasn't even seeded. It was strange. It was strange. If it was seeded, I don't know that we would have seen Frank Mir versus Fedor in the first round. I'm glad we did. That was a great fight. Frank Mir showed us where he was at. Now, as far as Emelianenko, that remains to be seen, because we don't know what he really has as far as anything. We don't know what he really brings to the table from that performance. But like I said, Mirko Cro Cop was hospitalized, not able to compete against Roy Nelson in the main event. So the main event for Bellator 200 has been canceled. That does suck, because I was really looking forward to that fight. But he is not able to fight, and I will go through that, like I said, more in depth tonight in my Bellator 200 preview. Tonight, if you see a live stream going on and just looping, that's because I'm going to be looping a live stream all night. No, to get more minutes and more viewers and more excitement for the Bellator, I'm doing a special 30-minute to an hour promo on Bellator 200, going through that card very in depth. I've done a lot of research on a lot of the fighters and things, and it will continue to loop from tonight until 6 p.m. tomorrow. Andres Jimenez, what's up? For a while, I thought Mousasi versus Carvalho had been canceled. No. That one's still on, man. What a mess, says Mario Yamasaki. Mario, you kind of like a mess, don't you? What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys like the new background here. You get to hear me, but you get to see something a little entertaining in the background. And like I said, one of the greatest fights of all time. A little history on this fight to go into it. These guys both coming into this fight were both coming off several losses. Their careers, were kind of seemed on the downside, especially Mickey Ward. Nobody really was itching to fight them. But when they got those fights, they had lost a lot of close decisions. There had been cuts on, stoppages on cuts. Just some weird different things happened. And they ended up fighting each other. The rest is history. Obviously, it ended up going down as what's thought of as the greatest trilogy of all time. This first fight, possibly the greatest fight of all time. I believe the greatest non-championship fight of all time. There's only 10 rounds. Carvello flagged by USADA, says Gribble Dribble. No, I don't think so. I was never a fan of Verdum. Yeah, Verdum was flagged. Let's go into that for a minute. Fabricio Verdum was flagged by USADA and out of competition tests on April 25th. They have not seen... What's up, Cap? I got to recap. Oh, thank you, Cap, for the shout-out. Fabricio Verdum was flagged by USADA in an out-of-competition test on April 25th. Of course, Verdum says, this is all a misunderstanding. We'll clear it up with UFC and USADA, and everything's going to be okay. The 40-year-old was set to face Alexei Oleinik September 15th on the UFC's first-ever Moscow card. Alexei Oleinik, if you don't know who he was... I really didn't know who he was till I looked into it. Is incredibly popular in Russia, so I imagine he will probably get a replacement opponent. That fight, I don't think, is likely to happen. I really don't see Fabricio Verdum beating USADA on this. He's 40 years old. It doesn't mean that he cheated his entire career. I'm tired of the excuses from a lot of these guys, though. And I don't want to jump to conclusions too much because there has been some things overturned recently by tainted supplements. I just have a feeling that's not the case in this. Tainted supplements that were approved by USADA. I don't believe that's the case in this. I believe Fabricio Verdum, after his last fight, just didn't have it anymore. He's 40 years old. That's how 40-year-old heavyweights are supposed to fight, if they're fighting natural. Man, great background. Very nice. Well, thank you, Andres. I'm glad you like it. Has there been any heavyweight Brazilian who's never popped dirty? I don't know. Did Rico Rodriguez? There wasn't a whole lot. I think he might have been popped back in the day. I don't remember. Obviously, that was way before USADA's time. And I'm not even sure if there was really very much, if any, drug testing when he was in there before. So I'm not sure Rico Rodriguez. Actually, I know there was some drug testing because I know he was fighting the first time Josh Barnett got popped. But Junior Dos Santos, of course, was popped, just got his overturned, which was interesting. USADA said that I believe he took some tainted supplements and they were proven that they were tainted. So he'll be fighting on that Boise card, hopefully, because I have tickets for it. 11 rows from the cage. I'm pretty excited about it. And I'll be doing some live coverage there from inside Boise, some coverage of the weigh-ins, some pictures. Hopefully get some time with some fighters on there. I'm not sure if they're going to be in the mood to really get on camera at the weigh-ins or anything. But definitely a lot of coverage that week. During USADA, I think they all dropped dirty, which is kind of sad. Yeah, I think we all need to come to a reality that sports in general, before better testing, was dirty. And George St. Pierre talked about this. Incredible interview. If you haven't watched it yet, yesterday, George St. Pierre was on Joe Rogan. He spoke in depth, very honestly. I'm just a little over halfway through the 3-hour interview, but he spoke in depth about his attitude about USADA and a lot of other things. He was brutally honest. Just, you know, I remember why I liked the guy. I admit in the past, you know, I'd fallen off. I'd not been the biggest George St. Pierre fan because of his fighting style. I felt like he didn't take enough chances, different things. This interview, to me, just made me love this guy. Just, you know, absolutely love him. He's a great, incredible human being, and I hope we get to see him again before he's over, because he's a living legend. He's one of the greatest of all time. Talking about the UFC, though, we talked about that UFC ESPN deal, the UFC Plus, that for $4.99 a month, a lot of us are going to get to see a lot more fights. And UFC Fight Pass, I imagine, they haven't announced that it's canceled, but it looks like it'll probably be canceled. I don't see where it goes from there, because on ESPN Plus for $4.99 a month, you're going to get UFC fights, plus you're going to get on-demand. They said on-demand fights, which sounds like UFC to me. PK says, great interview. I watched the whole 3 hours. Big fan after that. Yeah, it's an incredible interview. Yeah, like I said, I'm about halfway through. I used to watch every Joe Rogan interview. Now there's a few of them that I haven't watched. There's some repeat guests, and there's only so much time in the day. But yeah, it was incredible. GSP has high praise for Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy's a stud. That guy's an absolute stud, and I think people are underestimating him. But to get back into this deal, we talked about the UFC having this deal with ESPN Plus, which I'm thinking I'm going to highly recommend. I can't wait until the UFC deal starts in January, and they had announced $150 million a year for, like, I believe it was like 16 bouts on ESPN Plus DVR coverage. They redone that deal. All praise to Dana White. I've criticized him in the past. This is one of the biggest, most incredible deals that he pulled off in the history of television, especially for the viewership that UFC gets when you compare him to the NFL and the NBA. This new 5-year deal, it's going to have 10 ESPN televised shows per year. So they had talked about possibly still having televised bouts on Fox, and then going with the streaming on ESPN Plus, so they would be able to get both of them. That's no more. 10 ESPN televised shows per year. They just increased the cards on ESPN Plus to 20 cards a year. So that's 30 UFC cards on free TV a year. This deal is worth $300 million a year. 5-year deal for $1.5 billion over 5 years. Billion. Dana White said it literally may have been the greatest day of his career. And that's saying a lot, being that he not only saved the sport from extinction, saved it several times. And I agree with GSP and Joe Rogan said on the show, Dana White's the greatest promoter of all time. Boxing, anything, what he's done. He's the greatest promoter of all time. Bar none. They trained together, says PK. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I don't think I've gotten that far in the interview. I'm about halfway through. So the Russian Olenek is the guy with the Ezekiel chokes. Yep. Him versus Verdum would have really been an interesting matchup. I agree. I really was looking forward to that. Olenek has 11 Ezekiel finishes in MMA. I didn't realize that. Holy crap. So, in other words, they shouldn't be calling it the Ezekiel choke anymore. They should be calling it the Olenek choke. That is... These advertisements in between are awesome. I love it. To think back to the countdown to Lewis Tyson and Holyfield Rockman. And Morales versus Barrera 2, which I will be doing. You can look forward to. I will be streaming the Eric Morales versus Barrera trilogy in the background on one of these. You can put your 50 cents on that, whether he ends up in Bellator or not. But yeah, what a huge deal. $300 million. When I said $1.5 billion over 5 years. Fox, on the other hand, went a different way. I was pretty surprised by this. I don't know how it's going to end up. I don't follow WWE a lot, but that's the route Fox went. They reached a deal with WWE for WWE SmackDown. I know they have several different variations, several different shows. WWE SmackDown, they're going to pay $205 million per year just for WWE SmackDown. I don't know what WWE's ratings are. I know this last UFC did very well for being what it was in the competition that it was against. I don't know how many viewers they're... I do know that WWE's streaming service is killing Fight Pass on numbers, but I firmly believe that the main reason and just about the only reason for that is that all the pay-per-views are live. And UFC Fight Pass literally has had 2 events since I've had it. They have one coming up here. I think 2 exclusive UFC events. They did just announce, though, and if you've heard me in the past, you've probably heard me say that I'm a huge Thai boxing fan. UFC Fight Pass did just sign a contract with Bangkok Knights. That's a Thai boxing series. It's going to be on UFC Fight Pass now. I'm super excited. I don't know how many live streams I would want to do unless there's a big demand for it, because they're at 7 a.m. Here. Some of them I think even earlier live, so I'll probably end up watching them on DVR later. But man, I love Thai boxing. Both these guys are warriors, Jimenez. For anybody who hasn't seen these fights, it's incredible. I just want some MMA coverage on SportsCenter. We're going to see a lot of that, man. I guarantee you we're going to see a lot of that. This is by far the biggest move that the sport has ever made. You're going to have 30 events on ESPN a year. Now, like I said, I think that's the end of Fight Pass. I'm curious what happens to the pay-per-views. And there you see Arturo Gatti. It's been a long time since I've watched this. The left body shot knocking down Mickey Ward there towards the end of the 4th round. If you missed it, I'm sure there'll be a replay in between. This is from my own personal DVD collection. Like I said, I was looking at the dates. I actually recorded this in 2000, so 18 years ago. But, yeah, I don't know what to think about WWE being on Fox. I'm excited. I honestly haven't watched fucking ESPN in I don't know how long. I don't even watch SportsCenter anymore. I stuck to my stubborn-ass guns. That's one of the greatest trainers of all time right there, too, Buddy McGirt in Arturo Gatti's corner. By the way, now where was I going? I lost my train of thought. Yamasaki says less NASCAR and monster truck rallies, more UFC. Yeah, absolutely. More UFC. You're going to be seeing so much UFC coverage on there. It's going to be incredible. But no, I haven't watched much ESPN since I really didn't have cable. Not that long ago, I got DirecTV Now, basically just to be able to stream fights. And I get it for $10 a month with my phone bill. I said I don't have a deal with them, but I always throw that out there. So anybody that has AT&T knows that they can get that deal for $10 a month. I think it's an incredible deal, and they're working on adding a DVR where you can save 20 hours a month of coverage on there. So the app's getting better and better as it goes on. So if you have AT&T, I'd highly recommend getting it. Enough of the BS and the advertising on that, though. But I would say I really haven't watched ESPN, and I've stuck to my stubborn gun since the Sonics left, and that's been years. I want to say like 2009, 2010. I don't remember. It's been a long time. And I have not watched probably 5 minutes of NBA TV on my television set since the Sonics left. I watched a little bit of Cavs because my brother-in-law was watching it when I went over. My nephew's into it. So I watched a little bit of the championship there. But I'm looking forward to it, and shoot, I might finally might finally stop my stubborn ass and watch some NBA basketball. UFC Chile ratings. Speaking of basketball, UFC Chile was going against the Boston Celtics, Cleveland Cavaliers Eastern Conference Championship. I believe it was Game 4. 870,000 viewers. That's pretty good for the competition they were going for. Also going against a stellar boxing Showtime card with a double main event. Like I said, UFC Chile, 870,000 viewers. Showtime card, 535,000 viewers. Doesn't sound like a lot, but those out of 500, you got to think about how many people actually have Showtime. 535,000 viewers, only 1.5 million have the streaming service. Streaming service is fairly new. I was having a really hard time pinning down numbers for how many people have it on the television service. I'm not even sure if they're making that public right now, but I imagine it's around 10 million. So, that being said, I'm guessing it wouldn't probably not be too much of an exaggeration to say Fox Sports 1's in 20 times the home that UFC is, and they got 535,000 viewers for that show. That's a pretty good showing. I'm watching basketball now, Rockets versus Warriors. I hope the Steven versus Till fight will be as good as it looks. I'm a little worried. I'm going to warn you guys. I shouldn't be warning you guys because I want you guys to watch the stream, and I know you're all going to watch it anyways. But when two counterpunchers get in there, it's not always the most exciting fight. There's been a lot of fights that we've been really excited about as fans. Now, guys like this that have no defense and just come forward and take one to give one, that's the exciting fights. That's, like I think Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier, you could really compare that to Gotti Ward. And, Dustin Poirier like the Gotti, and Ward just comes forward like a freaking animal. But they both do. Like, they were like robots. And, I said much respect to the memory of Arturo Gotti, God rest his soul. Another UFC fighter retired. He went over to fight in Japan. Not had very good luck. His last match, he was knocked out in like 14 seconds. You probably know who I'm talking about right now. It was Ian McCall. I really thought he was going to enter that PFL $1 million tournament. But he's done. I don't think a whole lot of people are going to cry over that because he wasn't a finisher. And at the end of the day, as much as we want to say that we're all purists, we're all hardcore fans, and whatever you want to say, at the end of the day, we all want to see finishes, or we want to see exciting toe-to-toe fights like this. Or if it is a grappling match, you want to see something like Sakuraba versus Royce Gracie, which, don't look that up if you don't know what it is. I'm going to stream that one of these times. What's up, RS? Because I can, and it's a great background. we're still doing the usual MMA live show. I just have that on in the background, RS. It's a new thing on here. I'm going to have classic fights playing in the background during the Thursday night MMA live shows. And I'm not going to tell you guys which ones they are, so you're going to have to tune in to find out. Which you better tell your friends, because apparently everybody's watching boxing tonight, or basketball, because we don't have a lot of people in here. I think of Vitor versus Machida in their prime when I think of this matchup. Vitor versus Machida, huh? All right. Destroyer versus Finesse. Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. I hear you. So, something that came out of that GSP interview, for those of you who haven't watched it, is GSP looks like he's going to target 155 pounds. I am curious to know what you guys think about that. He said he's not interested in fighting Nate Diaz because he feels that it does nothing for his legacy. He's 37 years old. He said he will not fight past 40. We've heard that before. I believe we actually heard it from Bernard Hopkins, who fought to 50. But I tend to believe GSP more. He said obviously money is a factor, but to fight Nate Diaz, he says it just doesn't make sense. You know, if he wins, they're saying he's going down and he beat up on a smaller guy, even though Nate Diaz probably walks around about the same weight. GSP was lean in the Rogan podcast. Yeah, he's been doing the intermittent fasting thing, and apparently it's been really, really good for the colitis that he had, because he was eating too often, gaining that weight. And it's also he said he's even leaner than ever. His body fat percentage is lower than ever. And yeah, he's looking great. He says he's close to being ready to sign a fight. So he said he's not 100% ready to start a training camp right now because of some of the difficulties he's still having with the colitis. But he says he's close. And that 155-pound championship fight could be enough to sign him, because then he would be the first fighter to ever win championships in 3 weight classes. I'm interested in that fight. I'm interested in him against Khabib. I'm interested in him against Conor. I would have been interested in him against Nate. I'd have paid for it. I think we all would have. And I think it would have been an entertaining fight, but I just don't see Diaz pulling that off at all. I thought it was very interesting, Nick Diaz. He mentioned Nick Diaz and how Nick Diaz matched up against Tyron Woodley. And he said he actually thinks that Nick Diaz stylistically is a nightmare for Tyron Woodley, and then he thinks Nick Diaz would beat him. GSP was leaning I wouldn't. You wouldn't what, RS? You wouldn't come back? Oh, GSP versus Conor. Oh, you wouldn't pay for it. GSP versus Conor or Khabib or Woodley. I don't think he's fighting Woodley. He's going to say it's because he has nothing to prove. I kind of believe that. I'm not sure he could beat Woodley either. And that's half of it. Hearns versus Ray in the backgrounds would be nice. I got some Hearns on some DVDs, bro. So you're going to have to tune in every week to see what fight I pick. But this is the fight this week, but there will be different fights every week. So, yeah, make sure you tune in. And all the MMA news. But, so, let's jump from, funny how GSP don't want to fight Woodley, but he's talking shit saying Nick would beat him. That sounds like he's hating. It did kind of, and that kind of surprised me. I understood what he was saying. I understand, and I'm not hating on Tyron Woodley. You know, I'm a big fan. In a 5-round fight, I think what he's saying is a muscular guy like that, possibly a guy with the cardio like Nick Diaz, he could wear him down. But GSP was a muscular guy when he fought Nick Diaz. So I don't know. I don't think Nick Diaz right now beats Tyron Woodley. I have no idea what kind of shape he's in, but I'm pretty sure he's probably not in the shape to beat Tyron Woodley. He doesn't have a fight signed. He hasn't paid his fine. Woodley is the unspoken fighter. Barely any fighter in media says his name. He is like Voldemort. And he's commentating. He commentates on UFC. You guys are right. He doesn't get near the respect he deserves. I can't wait to see him in there again against anybody, but I want to see him get paid. I want to see them. He doesn't have to get a favorable matchup, but I want to see him against somebody that gives him a good chance to make an exciting fight. It's hard to look exciting against Stephen Thompson, and I think, unfortunately, we might see that with Darren Till on Sunday. And as we've seen from Kamaru Usman and Anderson Silva, it's hard to look entertaining against Damian Maia. So I don't know who you give him. Nick Diaz would be an entertaining fight. So would Nate Diaz, and I think he beats both of them, and he gets paid. Lawler would be a great one, but yeah, Woodley is very underrated. He beat Maia, Lawler, Thompson. Till was cocky brat. But you got RDA versus Colby Covington. I'm hoping Rafael Dos Anjos gets past Covington, and we see Rafael Dos Anjos versus Tyron Woodley. I think that's a great fight. I think Tyron Woodley comes out of it. I think he wins the fight, but I think it's a much more entertaining battle. than some of these other guys they put him up against. T. Wood said he's done asking for money fights. He said he's ready for RDA or Colby or Till or Usman on UFC 226 card. I really don't want to see him against Kamaru Usman, but at the end of the day, for the integrity of the sport, if Kamaru Usman keeps on winning, we got to give him a title shot. Right now, the winner of RDA, I think RDA is more deserving if he beats Colby Covington. I don't know that Colby Covington is, but RDA definitely. Especially after beating Robbie Lawler. I know Robbie Lawler, I think, was injured, and I hope we see some great fights in the future from Robbie Lawler. I hope he still has a lot left. After seeing last weekend fight, Usman is not at that level. Well, supposedly he had 2 broken hands. I don't know how true that is. But, I mean, I guess, only he knows, and the doctors. So I don't know if that's the case or not, that he has 2 broken hands, but I'm sure his hands were hurt. I mean, I'm sure they were bothering him. Whether he actually had them looked at and he had 2 broken hands, I have no idea. Moving to other controversy, though, we talked about Yair Rodriguez being cut by the UFC. And Chael Sonnen, was very descriptive in the way that he talked about why Yair Rodriguez was cut. And he gave us some rules that I personally didn't know. He said when a fighter turns down 2 fights, he's supposed to be cut. And I know we talked about this, but we have some more to this story now, and that's why I'm bringing it up again. Every fighter fights with some kind of injury. He's full of excuses. You're right, RS. Everybody fights with excuses. But he won. And that's where I would give him. He won, and he won decisively. Jimenez. What's up? Thank you very much, Teddy, for the $5 donation. I appreciate it, man. Everybody, have a drink to Teddy. I love you, man. Man, as much as I hate Covington, I think he will win the RDA fight. Hope I'm wrong. I pick RDA in that one, but I gotta admit I don't have a lot of respect for Colby Covington, so maybe I'm slightly biased. But like I said, going back to the Yair Rodriguez thing, I did not realize the rule that if you turn down 2 fights, that you were cut. There's a lot of fighters that should be cut if that's the case, including probably both Diaz brothers. UFC is a private business. They don't need big reasons to fire anyone. It just shows, again, Dana's true colors. So here's the thing. He refutes the UFC story. That's where I have a problem, is he doesn't have the same story as everybody else. What he's saying is that he accepted a fight with Josh Emmett. He was supposed to be the opponent for Josh Emmett instead of Jeremy Stephens back in February. For whatever reason, Josh Emmett declined to fight him. This is his story, and Jeremy Stephens stepped in. Of course, Josh Emmett, maybe shouldn't have done that, and he might not have gotten knocked out by Jeremy Stephens. But so then he said he talked to Sean Shelby, and he said he thought he deserved a top 10 fight. That's where I start to have an issue, even with his story. He was 6-1 in the UFC that time. He said he also volunteered as a replacement for Holloway after he was injured to rematch Frankie Edgar. So if he did volunteer to rematch Frankie Edgar after Holloway was injured, that's a pretty big chance. You're really going out there and taking a chance. Catch says, I hope Colby wins just so Woodley can knock his head off like he did against Josh Koscheck or Jay Haran. Here's the thing with Colby Covington. This is my problem. He talks that shit so we will hate him, so we want to see him get knocked out. My problem is I don't want to see Colby Covington get paid. That's my problem. And him, as crappy as he is at trash talking, has made us all hate him, and we want to see him lose. We want to see him get his ass kicked. And a guy can make a really good living, a really good career out of people paying to see him lose. Ask Floyd Mayweather Jr. He was much more popular, way more money after he became the bad guy. You should take everything Dana says with a grain of salt. Oh, for sure. I did not see Van Zant. What's up with Van Zant, GT360 Gamer? Van Zant got dim titties. To be honest, I'm very happy that Yara was fired. He will go to Bellator or some other promotion. UFC Monopoly starts to go down. He's a great talent in Bellator. He might be a champion there. We'll see. But going on in the story, I'm just curious. And there you see a Turagati getting knocked down from Mickey Ward there in the 9th round. And I believe it's this round right here is considered possibly the greatest round in all boxing. So you guys might not even be paying attention to anything I say. But this is absolutely fucking incredible. You see Mickey Ward just teeing off on a Turagati here for the first minute of round 9. And I'm going to break out. Oh, she got... No, I didn't see that. She got implants? Well, I mean, I've always said she's probably got more luck in Hollywood than she does in the cage. I mean, that's Michelle Watterson I had this issue with. Paige Van Zandt a little bit, too. Yup. So she got both? She got both? Is that what you're saying, Mario? Jesus. Yeah, this is a crazy round. Anyways, Yair's saying that he also accepted a fight with Ricardo Lamas. Ricardo Lamas, in his words, decided he didn't want to fight Yair Rodriguez. Took a fight with Mirsad Bektic. Then he said he would accept the fight against Zabit at UFC 227 in LA, but he wanted more money. My issue there is he's negotiated his contract, and this is just insane. This is the round I was thinking of. I think that's considered probably the greatest round in the history of boxing. Let's just take this in for a minute. Because Ward comes in dominating, Gaddy comes back. These guys go back and forth, I think 3-4 times between who's dominating and who's looking like they're going to end the fight in a 3-minute span. This is absolutely ridiculous. I said Zaire said he wanted more money or he wanted the fight in Russia. Or excuse me, Yair Rodriguez. He doesn't have that right. Jesus. God, he was tough. Look at Ward just teeing off on him. Ward himself, bleeding in the eye there. It looked like the referee might stop the fight there. He could have stopped this fight several times from either guy, what either guy did up to this point. Absolutely amazing. Anyways, Yair Rodriguez is on his way out. Surprise, surprise, he's got a different story than the UFC. I don't think he had the right to ask for more money when he'd signed a contract or demand that he fight in Russia. Watterson lost that fight. I haven't forgotten that. Sorry. How did she write a book about getting sexually abused like a month ago and then she goes and gets implants? She just wants attention. Yeah, it sounds about right. This is America. Well, we have a reality star as our president, so what do you want? Why I don't believe Yair, I don't know. Absolutely agree with you on Mario on that. I agree that, as usual, and I know this is kind of cliche, but the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Gotti hung himself with Weiss's purse string. Sounds fishy. Gotti committed suicide. Look it up. This has been confirmed. Joe Rogan actually said that Gotti was murdered. Gotti's wife was not tried in Brazil. In the United States, it's widely believed that his wife killed him. All evidence points to his wife killing him and faking the suicide. And you hear the referee, the fight ain't over. Get back in the corners. He thought Buddy McGirt was going to stop it there, I think, but possibly both fighters thought they were going to stop. I'm not sure. I don't remember. It's been so long since I've seen this. But, yeah, it looks from every major U.S. media basically has said that all evidence points to murder. And if you look in the United States, if you look, I believe, Google it, Wikipedia or whatever, it's listed as Arturo Gatti committing murder. A lot of fighters have committed suicide because of brain damage. What's your thoughts on Chris Benoit? Have you ever heard the whole story? Kind of fishy. I hadn't really given it all. Oh, JT360 Gamer just had a kickboxing match and watched this fight before my fight. I won by a body shot TKO. Sweet. Congratulations, GT360 Gamer. That's awesome, man. I do have some slight beef with you, though, because I told you I'm about 20 miles from you and I wanted to go see your fight. And you didn't email me. I'd have been there, bro. But congratulations to GT360 Gamer for the knockout, body shot knockout. That's great, man. That's awesome. How did she kill him? Choked him out? That doesn't kill anyone. She would need a lot of time. There's evidence, and you'd have to look into it more. I know Joe Rogan's talked about this pretty far in depth, and I will look more into this, and I will bring it up. I may even do a video on it, but I will definitely bring it up in a future stream, what it was that I'm forgetting and why. Let's see Diego Crowes versus Luis Castillo next. That is in the great box of DVDs, bro. So is the Diego Crowes versus Joel Casamayor trilogy, which is also absolutely awesome. So sticking with a little bit of controversy as we go on, though, let's talk about Mackenzie Dern. Rose Namajunas says Mackenzie Dern, her weight miss deserves more punishment than what she got. I completely agree. I have that one in there too, bro. Like Ayabuchi versus Tua. I recorded all these things back in the 90s and early 2000. This was I didn't realize this was 2000, but yeah, Rose Namajunas says she thinks Mackenzie should be suspended or even cut. I kind of tend to agree with her. I don't believe she should ever be allowed to fight at strawweight again. So there was a lot of backlash from this, from fans and from fighters, and she's been dropped from the strawweight rankings. That's a good start. And you see the Letterman scorecard, they had it even through 94-94. They're about to announce the winner here. For those of you that haven't seen this fight, you can see who won the first fight. They did fight 3 times. I said, nah, not suspended or cut. A little too harsh. I don't think, for 7 pounds, I don't know that a suspension is a bad thing. But that's just me. Maybe I am a bit too. I wouldn't cut her, but I'd suspend her for 6 months. And I think the worst punishment she's going to get, though, is the public backlash. And it's gonna make it harder for the UFC to push her and market her as much as they have been. RS, they shouldn't take as much money for someone that misses by a pound that misses by 7. And I thought that she did give more of her purse. I don't remember what the exact amount was, but I know it was it was over 20%. It was 30% of the purse, and I believe it was 30% of the purse, I believe, and then a percentage of her win bonus for ABC to sign on. And I don't know if ABC asked for all of that or said that she wouldn't fight because she's a tough girl, but that's what they agreed on. At least she swings for the fences when she fights. She does. I think she's a great fighter. But you can see in pictures, you can see that little bit of fat on her midsection that I would like to know how hard she worked to cut that weight. And she said that she can't guarantee that she won't miss weight again. That's an issue. She fights the way I like. Oh, definitely. She's definitely an exciting fighter. And I'm a big fan. I hope she does well. She's a top female star. She's a top female jiu-jitsu star, and we need another jiu-jitsu star right now. in the UFC. Damian Maia's getting older. I can't remember the name of that girl that won on UFC Chile, though, but she's very impressive. Ted, the other lady shouldn't have took the fight if the weight was that big of a difference. I think she took it, well, for one thing, she'd been through her training camp. So once you go through your training camp and you've paid for the trainers, you paid for the fighters, at the end of the day, these guys have to get a paycheck. Majority decision, for those of you who haven't seen what happened in this fight. First judge 94-94, a draw. Tatiana Suarez, thank you. She is amazing. And she's hot. 94-93. And 95-93, the other two judges. Majority decision winner. Irish Mickey Ward. So I don't know how much you guys were able to pay attention to that while I was commentating. If you agree with it or not. What a great fight. Of course, it set up two more incredible fights. What's up, Leslie? You just missed a great fight. No. 360 Gamer, next time for sure. Oh, okay, that's my bad. I lost internet for like 4 weeks. Yeah, let me know next time, and I'll come watch you in your kickboxing match, man. Yeah, that's the girl I was talking about. You're right. Dern was kicked out of her gym because she barely trained. Some days she wouldn't show up. She says she didn't like to train. I heard she was kicked out of her gym. I wasn't sure why. See, and this is one of those stats, 350 to 268, where it shows that necessarily, punt stats don't tell the entire story. This fight obviously could have went either way. All three fights were absolutely incredible. What's up, Tim Hart? What's up, man? Dana May, a $1.5 billion deal, eh? For what? So, Tim Hart or anybody else that wasn't in here yet, we're getting a ton of fights on ESPN next year. 10 fights now on ESPN television. Who felled USADA now? What's up, BJ Green? I'll get into. She was invited to leave, says Teddy. So let's get into the $1.5 billion deal. The $1.5 billion deal is with ESPN and ESPN Plus. So they now have a deal, a television deal and a streaming deal. The new deal was 20 fights per year on ESPN Plus, which is a $4.99 a month service. Also going to have UFC DVR, which I'm guessing probably gets rid of UFC Fight Pass. If they don't get rid of it, it kind of replaces it for most fight fans. Although UFC Fight Pass did just add Bangkok Nights, which is a great Thai boxing series. So hopefully ESPN Plus picks that up in January. But yeah, that's the deal. We get basically 30 free fights. If you got ESPN and ESPN Plus, 30 fights, and I think it could even change the way pay-per-views are looked at in the future, especially with the way pay-per-views have been dragging, and with the increase to $65. I knew it. I think I said it on here. It's too much. It's way too much. Fans don't want to pay $50, so you're going to charge them $65. Jesus. So BJ Green, for who failed USADA. So on September 15th, the first match in Russia, Fabricio Verdum was supposed to fight Alexei Olenek, I think is the guy's name. He failed for some kind of banned substances out of competition on April 25th. He says, of course, like every fighter does, he's 40 years old. He said it's a mistake. He has no idea what's going on, but he'll work it out with USADA and UFC and everything will be okay. I tend to doubt that. But Mario says, I watched Mir versus Cormier earlier. I'm convinced he has a chance against Stipe. I think he has a chance against Stipe too. I think it's an incredible fight. DC definitely has a chance against Stipe. DC wrestling has ground game. Is very good. Did you see what he did to Ozmir? Yeah, it was incredible. I believe for Doom. I think he's clean. Huh. I definitely think he was clean in his last fight because he ran out of gas. And I don't really have much to blame. I don't have anything. I don't have anything to base it on except for kind of just a gut feeling that maybe he's getting older, maybe he didn't take anything his whole life, but after that last performance, he felt like he needed a little something more. But we don't know. We'll have to wait and see what facts come out. I really don't have hardly any of the facts right now. Yeah, he bullied him, says Mario. Yes, he did. I only buy pay-per-view fights if it's a great card. I bought the Mayweather versus McGregor that was $100. Yeah, most people only buy the big cards. And that's the thing. They'll pay $100 for a great card before they pay $50 for a shitty. And maybe that was the thought of going to $65 a card. But that's just crazy. I heard Covington spiked for Doom's teeth. You know, nothing would surprise me out of Colby Cuckington. Road rage. First El Kukui, then Colby. Yep, Stipe will destroy that crybaby Cormier Tim Hard. You not a Daniel Cormier Tim Hard? Only naive people think some fighters that test positive are innocent. Well, there was a rash of 4 fighters here recently, RS, and JDS was one of them, that were somewhat exemplified because it was proven that it was in their substances and that they gave the list of substances to the UFC and USADA during training. Now, Josh Barnett, he actually tested positive, I believe, for a supplement. UL was proved clean and JDS, so not really. Yeah. But yeah, he actually, yeah, that was a big thing with UL. You're right. Josh Barnett actually tested positive with a supplement that USADA told him to take. So he was completely exemplified, but he had already missed. He'd been out for over a year. And he is very upset. I don't know when he's going to be back. Hopefully he's back in the UFC soon. But, I mean, nearing 40 years old. He might be 40 years old. He's got very little time left in his career. So that's, I mean, that cost him a lot of money. They take the supplements on purpose knowing they have that stuff in it. I would. Oh, I'm not saying I would do it as a fighter because that's the honor, but, you know, training myself, if they told me these supplements give you more of an edge and they might be a little iffy, if I didn't think that there was health implications to it, fuck, I'd take them. I think it makes sense for Doom took some roids, but who knows? Yeah, it's all speculation at this point. 360 Games says, wonder if Cormier retires, who will dominate the division? Likely Gustafsson. I think it is Gustafsson. I believe Gustafsson and Rockhold is already signed. I can't remember what UFC that's going to be at, but it looks like, yeah, everybody got their opinion. And that's kind of where I stand, is I think it's at this point right now it's just all opinions, Cav. But who knows? It's true that is a very common thing. There are a lot of supplements that don't list they have steroids on purpose. Nobody sues them. The athletes thank them. Cormier won't retire until he gets his 3rd fight with Jones. Possibly. Well, here's one of the big things with creatine, though, is they make a lot of these things, a lot of this creatine and a lot of supplements overseas in China. I'm not sure how this is, but I know I heard Joe Rogan talking about it. They make creatine in the same bins and cut it on the same things that they have cocaine. I'm not sure how people know that they have cocaine on there and nobody's doing anything about it, except for the fact that I guess it's China, and what the hell is anybody going to do? But that's telling you that China openly sells cocaine, I guess. I don't know. A lot of very shady supplements in the market. Yeah, Mexico's got a lot of them. Mexico, a bunch of them were inspected in Mexico, and most of them failed. There was some in Brazil, too. Anthony Johnson will come back and destroy everyone. I would love to see Anthony Johnson come back. One of his former opponents, and I was actually one of the 2 UFCs I've been at. What's up, Dean? Thanks for tuning in, man. How's it going? UFC just made $1.5 billion and I'm still broke. So are all of us. RS fans can't be so naive. The UFC started selling that John Jones and other stars are innocent. Teddy says, R.I.P. Emmanuel Stewart. Great boxing commentator. Oh, absolutely. One of the best ever. Yeah, I absolutely love that guy. And there you see the old video, Nassim Hamed and Marco Antonio Barrera. Those are some classic fighters right there. I think Rockhold is actually one of the best fighters, potentially wise, ever, since he had a bad chin and a cocky attitude. That's actually one of the best fighters, potentially wise. Huh. Yeah, I'm not sure. Going okay. Headed to Portland for part of the weekend. Sweet. I wish I was headed to Portland. Rockhold walks in with his friend with his hands down. His boxing is not very good. Well, it certainly wasn't very good against Michael Bisping. And who wants to stick around for Gotti Ward too? Looks like we got a few people in here. I was going to do this second fight the next time I stream. How long is this? This video is a little while, but I think we could do another hour. Rockhold walks in with his hands down on his boxing. Yeah, not good at all. But Arturo Gotti was an amazing fighter. Absolutely. And like I said, most likely, I remember watching this the first time. And like I said, this was like 2000 or 2001. And everything was black and white. And I came in, I was going to grab something to eat, and I come back and my TV's in black and white. And you can see this is right after 9/11 because he's got 9/11 on his robe. I came back and my TV was black and white, and I thought there was something wrong with my TV, especially as grainy and everything that it is there. So I almost had a panic attack. Like Till, mark my words, Till will get clipped walking in. Quite possibly. I actually think Corey Anderson is the GOAT. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about that. But, just so you guys don't think I was lying, I want to look into this Arturo Gotti thing a little bit. And like I said, I'll probably do a video on it. But Gotti was to attend his sister's wedding the same day. Gotti's widow was charged with this first-degree murder. Oh, after the strap of her purse was found stained with blood. Rodriguez could not explain how she spent more than 10 hours in the hotel room without realizing Gotti was dead. I knew there was something new on this. Exclusive new evidence reopens investigation into the death of Gotti. Arturo Gotti's private eye says he's gotten to the bottom of it. So I think she was charged. I believe that she got off. I'm having a hard time finding current articles. Wife of Arturo Gotti accused of strangling the boxer. This is 2015. Arturo Gotti died in 2009 under very, very suspicious, I would say very suspicious circumstances. But, right, that goat core. Who you got for Till versus Wonder Boy? I got Wonder Boy. I don't think that Till is quite there yet. I don't think he is at Stephen Thompson's level. I don't know why, but I don't think people realize quite how good Wonder Boy is. And maybe someday Darren Till's at that level, but I don't think he's quite there yet. I think Till will learn that Wonder Boy's on another level. Well, there you go. Put on some butterbean fights, dude. That dude was the legend. I may put on some butterbean fights one of these times. What his wife ended up getting charged, I knew it. Well, she ended up getting charged with it. I don't think she was indicted. I don't think she was found guilty. I'm not positive, and I don't know why I'm having a hard time finding the information on Google, but she was charged. Because she was charged I think she was found innocent in Brazil, and there was a lot of uproar over it in the States because she was a Brazilian citizen and the trial was in Brazil. Legend of boxing shouldn't go without justice. Nobody should go without justice. Nassim retired too young. Gotti and Wood are absolute warriors. Oh, absolutely. Well, Nassim, after that fight with Marco Antonio Barrera, I think that he didn't think he was ever going to beat Barrera, and I think that was part of it. Teddy says she got off. That's my feeling for sure. Tim Hart says Butterbean, yes. Surprised nobody's asked for some Tyson in the background. I thought Masvidal was going to chop Wonderboy's legs off, but he handled it pretty well. Yes, everyone. I believe she had to have knocked him off first, then strangled him because there was blunt force trauma. Yeah, I would like to see the entire thing. I'm going to look into this more. Like I said, I'm going to try to do some kind of video on it. If I slack off, like on a couple other videos that I've said I do, remind me. So I can do the research. Anybody that has any articles or finds any articles with better information on it too, if you could email them to fightswithfriends@gmail.com, I'd appreciate it. Because I really would like to know more. I believe she had to... I think people are overhyping Till way too much. His last 3 fights before the Cerrone fight went to decision. Yeah, I agree. He caught Cerrone, and Cerrone's been caught early a couple of times. Boxing in the store, that was jokes. Gotcha. Okay, you still can't strangle someone to death. That's some Hollywood bullshit. You have to hold on for about 3 minutes. Nobody's arms can last that long. Yeah, I don't know about that, man. I heard that she was not the only one involved. There was some stuff involved with the mafia and some money. Like I said, I really need more information. S is freaking me out. He was drunk, unconscious, and got hanged, to my recollection. I believe he was drunk and then supposedly hung himself, yes. Or else you can strangle someone, but his wife against Arturo Gotti, yeah, probably not. I would say she probably didn't do it alone. Obviously, there was enough evidence to try her for first-degree murder. While she was a Brazilian citizen in Brazil, so there's something that we don't know. There's more. I'm gonna try to get more information. Like I said, unless he had some underlying problems in the arteries or brain. Yeah, I don't know. Bloodstained purse dog. Yep. String with your arms gives you brain damage. Not enough time to kill. Well, I mean, we've never seen a fighter die from getting choked out in the cage. Although, I mean, they do revive them very quickly. I would like to see the trial. Honestly, I'm that interested in it. I was a huge Arturo Gotti fan, and that's something that's happened a lot. A lot of fighters have committed suicide. You were talking about the Chris Benoit thing. Diego Crowell is one of my all-time favorite boxers. Definitely top 5. Like we were talking about him going against Jose Luis Castillo and the Joel Casamayor. I believe it was on the 5th anniversary of the Jose Luis Castillo fight. He took his motorcycle about 180 miles an hour on the other side of the freeway to his death. So, I mean, getting concussions, getting hit in the head, it's known to cause people to be more impulsive. It's known to alter your judgment-making skills. And I think we're going to see more of that after some of the battles we've seen, in the last 3 decades. I think some of these fighters, starting with some of these guys in the 80s, I'm hoping not, but I think some of them might start showing effects of it. The Sugar Ray Leonard era would probably be the big start of it. Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvis Margwin Hagler. Roberto Duran's pretty old. He's gotten pretty old, and he's been pretty much unscathed, the Panamanian. But everybody's different. You look at a guy like Gary Goodridge. I mean, and God forbid anything happen to him, but I mean, he's mentally, he forgets a lot of things. He's very impulsive. He keeps forgetting that I try to get him on the show. So, you listen to Theo Vaughn, dude's hilarious. Yeah, I've heard him a couple times on Joe Rogan. Aaron Hernandez hung himself on a doorknob. The Aaron Hernandez thing, the more they went into that, the more I found that very interesting. I was enthralled with that. At first, I was just had a pure hatred for him, and I still believe he was an evil dude, and he's responsible for what he did. And he definitely murdered those guys. But when they went back, I know he was under 30, and they said they had never seen that kind of CTE, I believe, in someone under the age of 40. So, he had some major issues upstairs. Damn right, GT3 gamer. Yep. Aaron Hernandez kills himself because he was facing life. He wasn't the type that was going to stay in a cell for the rest of his life. That's true too, but I'm not going to glorify Aaron Hernandez. The dude was a thug. He was an absolute thug. Anybody who has that much money and continues to want to be, I can kind of understand, how people get caught up in some crime when they're poor and they come from the streets and they're just trying to make a living. When you're making millions of dollars a year and you have the potential to make hundreds of millions of dollars over your career and you're still selling drugs and you're killing people, you're a fucking thug. And you're a piece of shit. So, there, I said it. Man, is there another fight in boxing out there like this right now? I don't know that anybody in boxing fights like these guys right now. I mean, obviously Lomachenko is entertaining, but he's not this style of fighter. I think the only thing we might have in fighting right now is Justin Gaethje. And it's a very hard style to get away with in MMA. Obviously. No. LC Lincoln Benedict, what's up? Go to an old school cemetery at 12:30 a.m. and F around guys alone. Okay, why would we do that? Not exactly sure why anyone would do that, but okay. Have fun with that. The 90s had a lot of hard hitters and sluggers. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I don't think that boxing has really, has gotten back to that level. And I don't think that these guys, some of these guys would compete, but I don't think a lot of these guys would compete back then. I think they would fold, honestly. I think a lot of them would fold under this kind of pressure. That being said, maybe there's more boxers. Maybe there was more sluggers then and there's more boxers now. I don't know. As you've seen later in his career, Turagati, he faced some of the stars of his time, and he really shouldn't have because it was complete mismatches. His fights against Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather Jr. were complete annihilations. And that's what happened when you seen a guy that could box a little bit, but mostly wanted to bang, go against true expert all-time greats, all-time great boxers. LCB getting a little dark. Yeah, a little bit. We've got Triple G, Ward, Klitschko's, wasn't bad at all. No, we've definitely had some people over the years. Wrestling Provodnik was a pretty wild recent guy. Yeah, and Deontay Wilder's kind of got that kind of style. I'm glad to see Tyson Fury coming back. And he's coming back quickly. I don't know who the LC dude is. But anyways, so he's giving me watch minutes. Hopefully he's not from MMA holes. Lucas Mathis versus Pac-Man should be pretty excited. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing Pacquiao again. He's definitely an old-time fighter. That's one of the old ones I've got. The quality's not that great on it because it was an old VHS tape. And I'd recorded it, and I watched it so many damn times. You seen Gotti just knocked Ward down there. And like I said, this was another incredible fight, just like all three of them were. But, Pacquiao's one of those throwback, but one of the fights I got was when Manny Pacquiao came on the scene. Nobody knew who he was when he fought Marco Antonio Barrera. And Manny Pacquiao, I believe, knocked Antonio Barrera down 3 times in the first round. Barrera ended up fighting back to a draw, if that's the fight I'm thinking about. After being knocked down 3 times in the first round. It was 3 or 4 times. An incredible, spirited fight for Barrera. R.I.P. Brian Callen. Why do people keep saying that? I'm not sure. Ain't Mathis old as F, just like Manny? He's got to be pretty old, but they're both game. Yeah, that's the thing. And some of these guys, as they get older, still put on some good fights. I don't know. I mean, Ward wasn't real young when this happened. I believe Gotti was 3 or 4 years younger than Ward when they had this. But yeah, this was another incredible round. This round 3 of the second fight, just absolutely insane. Is Verdum getting suspended? What's up, Henry Ford? Most likely. Of course, he's saying he has no idea how this stuff got in his system. Random Rios is a dog too. Okay. I don't know what Random Rios. Oh, I get what you're saying. Oh, Brandon Rios. Yeah, you're right. But I don't know if he's getting suspended. Most likely, he tested positive for some kind of banned substance April 25th by USADA. So I don't see him fighting September 15th when he was scheduled to. Even if he proves it's a tainted supplement, he's going to get some kind of suspension. Because that's the thing with the tainted supplements is even if they prove it's a tainted supplement, they're still responsible for what they put in their body. So they still face, I believe it's a minimum 6-month suspension, which is only 3 months more than the standard first failed drug test, which is 9 months. So, Jesus, Pecker Bills, of course, says Contra. Oh, geez. Amount of brain damage they took in this trilogy was crazy. Got to respect that. For Doom loves his PEDs. Tim has no idea. Who you got if GSP fights Khabib? I got Khabib, man. I don't know. I don't know how GSP is going to look at 155. And a lot of people are saying, GSP at 155, this is kind of strange. They were talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov walks around about 200 pounds. GSP couldn't get up to 200 pounds when he was trying, getting ready for the Michael Bisping fight. Same thing with Tony Ferguson, walks around on 200 pounds. Kevin Lee walks around close to 200 pounds. So GSP could definitely do 155. That's why I was never the biggest fan of the GSP Anderson Silva fight. I always thought Anderson Silva would probably win because of the weight advantage. Anderson had walked around as high as around 230, I think, and he fought several fights at 205. So much bigger guy. He probably would have came in at 200, and GSP would have came in at 185. The night of the fight. He has ties with Kadyrov, will fight in Russia. GSP will spark Khabib with that jab. Yeah, that's the more I think about it, though. I mean, obviously his striking's a lot better than Khabib's. I don't know. That's a very interesting fight. I would really like to see that fight. There's a Japanese boxer that nobody in the U.S. is talking about. Ryota Murata is selling out stadiums in Japan. He is undefeated with a lot of KOs, but nobody talks about him. There's a lot of guys at those lighter weights. I think possibly I heard about him. Maybe Cap said something about him before. Maybe it was you another time. Somebody said something about him, I think, and I checked him out. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of those lower weights Japanese guys. There was, I can't think of who it was, but there was a 108-pound straw weight that was almost all knockouts, like 40-some fights, and he really got almost no notoriety, undefeated. GSP has said a long time ago at 155 was realistic. 155 was more realistic than fighting at 185. I agree. 360 Gamer says it's so weird how if you listen to Mickey Ward, you can't hear the brain damage and his memory isn't bad. GSP is more cerebral. Yeah. You know, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't have it. I don't know. I mean, like, all our bodies are different, all our minds are different, all our brains are different. My feeling is, you know, certain people are probably more susceptible, you know, to CTE and different things, just like, you know, people are more susceptible to Alzheimer's and all kinds of other things. I think it's interesting how we're finding out how much Alzheimer's and different things with our brain has to do with what we eat and the inflammation of what we eat, the carbohydrates and different things, which I'm going to have to cut down on my carbohydrates. The more I listen to it, it's like I'm eating something crappy, and then Joe Rogan brings some health nut on there, and it's just like, oh man, now I feel like shit. and then I struggle with my diet, but I got back in the gym this week, so that's a start, right? Because September 15th, that Russian card, I will be doing that UFC when I plan on doing it, but September 15th will be my 40th birthday, so I'm hoping to lose a couple pounds before then. Vander Holyfield versus Chris Bird, December 14th. Man, that was of like 2001, I believe. I still remember Buddy McGirt just screaming at him in between rounds. So, all right, I got an early night tomorrow, guys, but I will be on for Bellator. 6 p.m. Bellator Friday, and then I believe it's 11 a.m. for UFC Liverpool on Sunday. I'm not sure if we're going to do anything on Saturday yet. Bacon and alcohol and sausage are bad now, according to experts now. Oh, yeah, and the American Heart Association said coconut oil causes heart disease, so they're a bunch of paid-off shills and smucks, as far as I'm concerned. But what do I know? I mean, I'm not a surgeon. I'm not a doctor. I'm just some jackass that listens to a lot of Joe Rogan and likes to watch fights. So we'll have to finish this one another time, though. I said I got to work at 5 in the morning. But thank you guys for tuning in with me late. I can't wait until Bellator. You guys might have to remind me what round we were in. I'll just start on round 5 next time we're doing this. But until Friday at 6 p.m., I might be on a little earlier. I love you. I respect you. And I'll see you fine asses later.